I'm Ron Rubey. I was born in Red Oak, Iowa in 1950. Let's see, I joined RDT. I must have been, we talked about that last night, 1972. So I would have been 22. So I joined RDT, I was 22, so I danced from about 1972 to 1976. I think I was there 5 years. I started dancing very late in life at the University of Ames, Iowa State University. But I'd always wanted to dance. As a child growing up on a farm, that was rather strange. But I always had this vision of wanting to dance. And I would even choreograph in the living room. On our front porch, I would choreograph pageants and stuff. And how a farm boy knew about this, I have no idea. Other than I watched the Red Skeleton show, and at the end they always had a dance thing at the end. And I would get up as a child and try to imitate what they were doing. And my mother always knew I'd been dancing when she came home because she could tell on the carpet where I had been moving and dancing. And so I always had this idea, but I started in theater at Iowa State University. And later, the dance teacher, Betty Toman, came to the theater department and wanted men for her dance class and for her productions. So I said, yes, I'll go. So I was the only one in the theater department that went over. And there I was for the first time in the dance studio, and I knew this was where I really wanted to be. And that's how it started. I first got involved with RDT by seeing them the first time when the company was on tour to Iowa State University. And my first teacher, Betty Toman, was friends with some of the company members. And it was actually at that point that I fell in love with the company. I knew this was the company I hoped to dance for someday. And actually a lot had to do with Bill Evans, I must say, who sort of thought about me as a future company member. And then he gave a workshop in Iowa later, sometime that I went to. And so I became sort of a protege of him, who was grooming me to maybe one day be an RDT member. Which led to my going to summer workshops, a couple of summer workshops. And I still wasn't quite good enough for the company, because I just started dance, really, even though I joined the company 3 years after my first dance step. But I came to a couple workshops. I didn't know what to do. After the second workshop, I was going to go back to Iowa. A small company in Iowa, at the University of Iowa, wanted to take me. But I didn't know what to do. It was too late to get into the University of Utah as a graduate student, but Bill actually talked to Elizabeth, the head of the department, and I got to be a late-term graduate student because Bill wanted to keep me in Salt Lake City for further training. When one first starts out, I think, as a dancer, the professional reality is much different than it is as a student. You have these visions of what dance will be like to be in a company, which has no basis in reality, of course. And when I first joined the company, I didn't know what it was like to dance all day long. And so that was the first opening of just the hours spent dancing. As a student, you had classes, and you had breaks. You had other kinds of courses, and then you rehearsed some at night. But now, this was a real awakening. I'm actually dancing 8 hours a day. And that was quite something. And as you realize one of the hardest parts for me to realize because of my obsession with dance and wanting to be a dancer and wanting to be good. What do you do in your free time? And so this became a very hard learning experience. But what do the other dancers do in their free time? Don't you just think about dance all the time? And I found out, no, you garden, you cook. There is a life outside of dance also. I was very fresh and new. As I said, I'd only studied for 3 years. And my training at Iowa State University was at Ames. Was somewhat minimal. I learned about performing more than I learned about technique in the early years because this Betty Toman, she came from the pioneers of modern dance, and she decided instead of staying at Jacob's Pillow and following in the footsteps of the original great modern dancers, Martha Graham, Jose Limon, Merce Cunningham, she came back to Iowa because she wanted to teach and pass that along. So we learned a lot about performing. It was only after my real contact, first with the Connecticut College American Dance Festival, and later workshops with RDT, that I started to really learn about technique. Epiphany moments in RDT. Okay, the one that comes to mind is when we were doing Lyric Suite, and I was doing the opening solo. But being a relatively young dancer, I obviously didn't really understand what the piece was about. So I had this general view of dance, working hard to make everything flow and smooth, and this was the goal. So I wasn't evidently putting that into the piece properly because I didn't understand the piece. I was working on generalization. Until we did a gala evening where all the dance companies in Salt Lake City performed in a gala. And during the dress rehearsal, one of the dancers came to me afterwards and said, well, you did that piece very smoothly, but you know that's not what the piece is about. And I went, what it's about? So it's about an animal. And an animal doesn't always move smoothly. That you have to think about what it's about, that animals make quick movements also. So I had 24 hours to rethink how I was going to do the piece. And fortunately, I was able to do it. I heard later that, oh, you took on all my crits, and that was only by thinking. I had no time to practice. But that was my moment. You must realize what the piece is about, not some generalization of an ideal of what dance is like, but what the piece is about, what the choreographer wants, and to get into the mind of the choreographer and what they are trying to depict, not what you are trying to lay upon it. Similar, I will go back a moment before I became a dancer. We can go back to there. Another moment that I learned about my place in the dance hierarchy when I was in theater at Iowa State University, my roommate, when I was in theater, doing theater, said to me one time, well, it's not that you have so much talent, you just work harder than all the rest of us. So I learned that that was going to be my lot in life, is trying to work harder than everybody else to achieve whatever I was going to achieve. I did that one piece, Beneath the Heather.
Mm-hmm. And how was that? How was that experience?
I enjoyed choreographing. I mean, in the summer workshops, I always choreographed a piece, as we all did. And that one, Beneath the Heather, was a piece that the company decided to do. And it was a good experience. I mean, I was an inexperienced choreographer, so it was a learning experience. I'm very happy the company decided to do it. I don't know what I would think of that piece now if I saw it. But Clay Taliaferro, when he saw it on a video, kind of critiqued me and brought me down to reality of that there needs to be more to it than just steps. So after RDT, when I left, I went to New York. I'd had a back injury, so I was working with therapists in New York, and I did a few things on my own in New York. Actually started taking more ballet classes in New York. And got into debt trying to produce programs on my own. So I went to work for Actors Equity doing office work. And one thing that came back to me, in high school I had taken typing, and my first experience with computers at Actors Equity, I had to use a computer, and I knew how to type, so I got a job. But I finally wanted to go back to dance. I spent a year doing that, and auditioned for a job in Germany. And there were 80 men there, and he needed 2 guys. And he took an Italian guy and me, which led me to going to Germany, thinking I would stay 1 year, see all of Europe. In the German system, I stayed 11 years, saw none of Europe, just worked my ass off. Because in the Germans, they know how to work you in the German theater system. And that's also where I met my partner of 35 years, Andreas Jägi. The first year I was there, through ups and downs. We are still together 35 years later, this month, September of 2018.
Good dance.
I was injured while working for RDT. I actually tore the long thoracic nerve in my back, so nothing was holding my rib cage and scapula together for a year, so I had to take a year off totally from dance. And so I left and went to New York to work with therapists there that did electric shock treatments to the muscles. So in the event my nerve did grow back, which there was a 50-50 chance of whether it would. So the muscles would be ready if that nerve reconnected. So I worked with a special therapist in that, and that's where I learned to do floor bar with a very famous woman there, which I continued to do the rest of my career, the floor bar, as a warm-up before doing stand-up work. And I did that the rest of my career.
RDT.
Oh, I don't know if I can name just one memory with RDT. To me, it was a very wonderful experience. I think it was there at a very special time. I had admired these dancers so much from watching them from the public and studying with them. It was like a dream come true the day I was asked to join RDT. I think I auditioned 3 times before they actually took me. And I had to move to New York, actually, before they brought me back. But also I wasn't ready. But dancing with these people, the experience with all these people is something I will never, ever forget. I will be thankful to all of them for all they gave me. And I went through the whole rest of my career, what I picked up from these very special dancers.